Hello, everyone, and welcome to the WWE Weapons tier list. So, today, what we're going to be ranking are a slew of WWE weapons. We have 9 here, ranging from the Kendo Stick all the way up to tacks. And we're going to be ranking them not on their effectiveness level, how good they are at knocking someone out, but how much I believe them as a weapon. Like, if I see someone get hit with this thing, I'm like, or if I'm like, whatever. We're going to be starting with a pretty simple weapon here, the steel steps held here by Jonathan Cena. I think the steel steps are a very average WWE weapon, and they're going right in the middle. The reason I think this is not just because they're a pretty solid thing, like they hit someone, they go down. They make a loud dong when they hit somebody, but you never see a match end with stairs. They're always someone gets thrown into the stairs on the outside. They're like, ooh, and then it fades to black for the ad on a 2-hour episode of SmackDown. That's where you see stairs normally. But in a TLC match or a TLCS match, you'll see the stairs come in. Someone will just throw the stairs at somebody. 1, 2, they kick out just in time. It's never something that ends a match, but it's always an effective knockout tool, and I'm believing it. When I see someone get hit, I'm like, man, even though I know it's not really making contact with the head, I'm imagining it doing so, which seems quite painful. Next up, we're going on to the ladder. And the ladder, as a weapon, and as solely a weapon, I don't think is that good. Think about it. If I'm throwing a ladder at somebody, they're like, oh no. They can catch the ladder. They can maybe grab the ladder, stop it from hitting them, and throw it to the side. They can catch it and throw it back at me. Generally, the only time I think a ladder is an effective weapon is when somebody goes through it and it breaks. So that's the reason I'm putting it in C. That picture is from Money in the Bank 2014. Next up, we're going to be looking at the Money in the Bank briefcase, held here by Austin Theory, taking a wonderful selfie. And this one is pretty good, in my opinion. I think that it's a metal case that, if completely real, like in real life, would be pretty painful if you had a metal case flying at you, just going boom right in the head. I think that generally it's a little bit depleted because normally it'll come out, somebody will hit someone with it, and then they're not going to be able to cash in for whatever reason, and then the weapon shot just kind of feels redundant. And for that reason, it's also going to be going right in the middle, B. I think it is, again, a very average weapon. Next up, we have Get the Tables. The table. This one is really good weapon. Think about it. You're going straight through a piece of wood, potentially metal, depending on where you land on it. And in real life, going through a table is probably pretty painful. And it's always loud when you go through it. It's not just a thump, it's a right as you make contact with it. It's a very noticeable gap, obviously. And two of the big things that I think help me think, oh man, that's a really effective weapon, is noise, how loud it is, and visible change to the item. Like with a ladder, while I don't think it's the greatest weapon because it's not that loud, when I see this happen to a ladder, I'm like, oh, dang, something must have hit that pretty hard. And that's why I like the table, and that's why the table is going in A tier. There is one weapon better than it, and we're about to get to it. The steel chair. I think this is the weapon that is the most effective at making me think, ow, when somebody gets hit with it. Because generally, you don't get a little with a steel chair. You get walloped with a steel chair. You're writhing on the ground. Ow, and then you keep getting hit more and more and more as the heel beats you down or the face is coming back. Nonetheless, a very effective weapon, making me cringe like, man. And in reality, it is truly an S tier weapon. Next up, we have the Kendo Stick. I have it right here. This one, I like the Kendo Stick, and it's a very effective weapon in pro wrestling. But when you just look at how it operates, it's not that effective, really. You get like 3 shots before it breaks apart. So that's why I'm going to put it in C. I don't think it's the worst ever because it does clearly do damage, and it does the noticeable thing that I said. But it doesn't look that painful, and then you can't use it that much because it breaks pretty quick. So I'm going to say C tier for that. Next up is the steel trash can, tin can, just trash can, whatever you want to call it. This one is a very good combination of both the noise aspect and the physical change aspect. Because if you're getting hit with it, it's going to go shot funk, and you're going to see a very obvious dent appear in the trash can. And when you think about regular trash cans you see around on the street in your house, and you think, man, that to the head would probably be pretty painful. And then you see this, you're like, man. Obviously, if you are just looking in kayfabe. Last but not least, except for the title, which I completely forgot when I said that, so just scratch all that, are the tacks seen here next to Chris Jericho, who has just gone through them. These are a very effective weapon, but they do one of the things and they don't do the other one. They make little to no noise when you make contact with them. They just kind of, you land on them, then you go, oh, wait. Then you get up, and then there's a bunch of tacks in you. It's painful, but it's not painful in the way that makes me go like, oh man, what a sick move. It makes me just go like, ugh. Can we like change that? Let's move on from that one. So I'm gonna have to put it in B. I want to put it higher, but when I see tacks get used, and especially in deathmatch wrestling, it's just kind of redundant because they get used, you sell them for a little bit, maybe that finish happens right there, and then they just kind of become obsolete after that. But when they do get used, they are really effective. Now, last but not least, WWE Championship, of which I do have a personal self-made model right here. This is probably the least effective weapon to use, and I'm gonna have to put it in D, because if it was a more metallic thing, like a chair, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's probably going to cause a lot of pain. But most of the title is just leather or fabric, and there's a lot of kind of void on a world title that when you get hit by it, maybe you get hit by a couple of gems on the title, a little bit of gold, it doesn't seem like something that would knock you out in reality. So when I see it, I'm like, okay, whatever. That does usually lead to the finish of the match in kayfabe, but nonetheless, not my favorite of the bunch. So let's quickly run through these once again. In S tier, the best of the best, we have the steel chair. In A tier, which is the second best of the best, we have the table and the steel tin, whatever, trash can. In B tier, we have the steel steps, the Money in the Bank briefcase, and tacks. In C tier, we have the ladder and the kendo stick. And lastly, in D tier, we have a WWE Championship. So, do you agree with my list? Do you think that the WWE title is actually the most effective weapon? I don't agree with you, but just let me see your comments down below. Maybe you'll make me change my mind on that. So, make sure to have a good day, good evening, good night, good morning, good dawn, good dusk, good whatever, and goodbye.